Azurik and Ciela woke up a little earlier than normal. The sky was still dark. Ciela hopped on his head, nestling into his hair as he slowly got out of bed, sliding off the side where the safety bars used to be. Azurik's mind was racing. The day he was waiting for was now here, leaving him full of dread. Today will be his first day of school. Sister Mary was up early as well, already fixing breakfast. Once the food was done, they ate at the dining table. Sister Mary's soft humming and singing did well to help relax him. Knowing how the day would go after they finished their meal, Sister Mary took a shower and freshened up while Azurik cleaned the dishes, taking a shower once she was done. While getting dressed, he stops for a moment to look at himself in the mirror, steeling his nerves and taking a deep breath in before let it out slowly. After Azurik got dressed, he grabbed the beaded necklace around his neck, glancing down at it with a warm smile as he thought about his parents, Ciela resting inside of his hair, blending in like perfect camouflage. Even her eyes looked like Azurik's green hair strands inside matted black hair. Her head randomly peeked out to get a better look around, making his way to the front door where he sees Sister Mary putting the last of his stuff onto the porch, where a man dressed as a chauffeur was grabbing his belongings and bringing them the rest of the way to the vehicle, a large armored black Hummer. As they met, there was a silence neither of them wanted to break, as if prolonging the departure before Sister Mary finally spoke after clearing her throat. With headphones hanging from her neck, she reached into her pocket to take out a phone and credit card, starting by turning on the phone and unlocking it. I will explain it all once more. School works like this. Those who can't afford private tutors or the fancy schools have to go to the public school. Although there will be trouble no matter where you go, you should always try your best to remain on school grounds and focus on your studies. Typically, you would have gone to school many years ago, but I didn't want that to happen. Wanted to keep my baby boy around as long as possible. Typically, the moment you go to school, you only return for holidays, breaks, or special events. This won't be the case for us. Once you leave, I have my own mission and purpose that I must fulfill for my God and myself. As Sister Mary spoke, it was impossible to tell who started it, but both their eyes grew more watery by the second, doing their best to maintain composure as she continued to speak. We will see each other again. It just won't be as often as it normally would. The farm will be given away to others who follow the same God. It will no longer serve as our primary home, although it will always be our home. You and I can always return, even if the other is not there, and be welcomed. This credit card, if used responsibly, should easily let you live in comfort with some lavish things until you graduate. It holds a great deal of money I saved up and will continue to add to it. Food, clothing, entertainment, weapons, etc. No problems if used responsibly. You can put it inside the thin slot in the back of your phone to connect them together. Speaking of which, the phone. Pour some of your mana into it to claim it. You will probably need to upgrade the sturdiness by the time you graduate, unless it takes some crazy damage. It shouldn't break. My number is already saved under Mother Mary. I have the settings where you can always see when I'm available to talk, FaceTime and such. If I'm not available, I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Just like the credit card, the phone has a security function. If anything happens to the credit card, it will let you know. If anything happens to me, and vice versa to you, it will let the other know. And next, Sister Mary handed over the phone and put the headphones on Azurik with one of his ears exposed while he put the credit card into the back of the phone slot. Sister Mary then clicked a few times onto the phone to get to the app she was looking for, while Azurik poured his mana into the phone for a few seconds until it stopped. He could feel a connection to the phone while Sister Mary continued speaking. Since I know how you get, I recorded a lot of my humming and singing with noise-cancelling headphones to sugar it up. Anytime you get nervous, anxious, scared, anytime the moon is not out and you can't clear your mind from all your thoughts, or if you just miss me, now you could always hear me anytime you want. She hits play on the first song. The sweet melody of her humming brings Azurik over the breaking point as his tears begin falling down. This was instantly followed by Sister Mary's own. cupping his cheek while wiping his tears away tenderly. Ciela softly coo and nuzzles the top of his head to help give comfort. Remember, and this goes for you too, Ciela, don't openly use your illusion ability in public until you're in high school. Focus on learning about your body to master your father's ability now, as well as the other things you will learn in school. You have plenty of time since you already have a manor heart and training. Lastly, and most importantly, remember you will always be my son, Isis. I will always be your Mother Mary, something only you can call me. Your parents would be so proud of you, just as I am. Carry them with you always, through your necklace and in your heart. I love you, and I can't wait to see you again. Their tears were pouring out of their eyes to the point where it blurred their vision. Izeric wrapped his arms around her neck to pull her in tight, as if trying to suffocate her. I love you too, Mary, sweet mother of mine. And like that, Sister Mary tears stopped as she giggled into a laugh at his words, pulling away from the embrace as she dried her eyes. You've been watching too many old shows. Izeric laughed and finished wiping away the rest of his tears, putting the phone in his pocket while still listening to his music, smiling with renewed confidence, heading to the stairs of the porch and hopping down to the ground while making his declaration. The old shows will always be the best. Now I must make haste before thy tears drown these roads, crops pulling me down and swallowing me whole. Waving as he walked backwards to the vehicle where the chauffeur was patiently waiting, standing next to the back-seat door. Sister Mary waved back cheerfully. All her sorrows vanished. Ha! As if I would ever let you drown! Keep my little boy safe, Ciela. Sister Mary retorted, ending her words more softly when speaking to Ciela. The crow caw and cooed happily in response. Izeric chuckled at her words. The chauffeur opened the back-seat door for him as he got in, sharing glances through the dark tinted glass. Sister Mary stood on the porch until they disappeared over the horizon and away from the farm life. Izeric's smile faded once she was out of sight. He turned up the music in his headphones, taking Ciela out from his hair to tenderly hug her while stroking her head, glancing out the window, seeing the sun just peeking over the horizon. Despite being close to the wall, it still took some time to drive to the entrance. After arriving at the enormous wall, slowly all of nature faded away, drowned out by the loudness of the city life. After stopping at the checkpoint, several droids patrolled around the vehicle, scanning and searching. A man standing by the gate looking at his tablet before giving the all-clear and signaling for the chauffeur to proceed. While driving through, the chauffeur showed his ID and stated his reason for entering. After the guard checked his tablet once more, he gave another all-clear. Proceeding through, more time passed as Izeric watched out the window at his new surroundings. Tall buildings, neon lights, several hovering cars and bikes beside them. A few vehicles were flying through the air, all with practically no traffic around him. Most people seemed to be walking, some riding small personal gadgets to get around like hoverboards. From magic and technology he had never seen before. There is another thing that stood out to Izeric. Countless droids and several androids following people. He rarely saw any animals with anyone. The few he did see, most of which seemed more like slaves than pets. Ciela pushed deeper in his hair as if to further hide herself at the sight. Izeric turned off his music and rested the headphones around his neck, reaching in his hair to gently comfort her while focusing more on the people he noticed as they passed alleyways and looking down streets where there was violence. Violence that many others ignored or cheered on, droids guarding and protecting places. For a moment he forgot about school and was just wondering where the hell he was. As the long drive continued, all of the chaos and noise slowly faded. Less people were around, and those who were seemed a bit more friendly, or at the very least not confrontational to Izeric. Eventually arriving at a large gate with several guards and droids standing by. A long line of similar vehicles one by one entered the gate. Passing through, Izeric looked out of the front window to get a better look at what he could only describe as luxury based on what he saw on TV. A mansion to the far left, another one to the right, and at the distant middle was a mansion on top of a mansion. "What?" is all Ezerik could say after failing to find the words he wanted. The chauffeur chuckled as he finally spoke. "Welcome to Mergerak, where the next generation learn, housed and trained to fight for humanity, if willing." The chauffeur continued down the road before driving into his reserved parking spot. Several droids were standing on reserved platforms and the drones shelved. The chauffeur gets out of the car and opens up the door for Isilrik to step out. "I was already told where you will be residing. Me and my droids will deliver everything to your room. Make your way to the main building in the center to properly get your ID and further information." Isilrik listens to his words carefully. As he stepped out the car, Ciela tugs herself deeper into his hair to hide herself. After nodding and thanking the chauffeur, Isilrik started heading towards the main building along with many other students who were dropped off. He couldn't help but to notice only a few of them looked nervous. He could only assume they're all used to the public school environment from joining earlier. A part of him was jealous of how Ciela could hide. His jealousy was felt through their connection. He could hear and feel her comforting yet mocking coo coming from her as she nuzzled. As the waves of kids made their way inside of the enormous building, several lines formed, each leading to someone working at the desk. Watching some students pulling out their IDs, being handed a simple watch and paper before proceeding on, while others go through a process of creating an ID. When it was finally Isilrik's turn, he stepped forward. After overhearing and seeing the process of many other students, he didn't wait to have it explained, placing his hand on a small crystal ball that sucked some of his mana into it. "Hello there. My name is just Isilrik, an orphan." The man behind the desk put down the black card he had in his hand and grabbed a white one along with a simple watch. The ID size reminded Isilrik of his credit card and the second slot on the phone. The man behind the desk put the card and watch into the back of the crystal, transferring the mana from the crystal to them. "Hello, Isilrik, I'm Grey. So, what you're in the process of doing is infusing your unique mana signature into this card. This will serve as your ID and access card throughout life. The watch has useful features. It also can show a hologram of your face, among other things. If you have a phone, the ID and watch will connect to it." Isilrik nodded as it's all explained, transferring the ID into the other slot in the back of his phone and putting the watch on his left wrist. Question: why are orphan IDs different? The man behind the desk nodded his head as if expecting the question. "Through the years, we found it easier for orphans to identify other orphans. We also make sure that no orphans are ever alone in a classroom or project and such. We can't guarantee absolute peace, but we can minimize the negativity, so we do promote everybody displaying their ID on school grounds when possible. Anyway, that's comfortable. You can get the color and design changed once you graduate to anything you wish." After the explanation, Grey gave Isilrik a piece of paper displaying his room number, teacher name, and a map of his side of the campus. With it, still being early, there would be downtime to get comfortable before the first class. He made his way to his room. By the look of his surroundings and the type of people going where, he was beginning to realize the buildings on opposite sides of each other, separated by middle school and high school. After reaching his room, he assumed the chauffeur put everything inside since nothing was outside the door. When entering the sliding door, his assumptions were proven correct. Everything was neatly stacked by one of the room's doors to the right. He also noticed just how large the room was. Shaped like an octagon, a big spacious living room in the middle. Clockwise from where he was standing, there were 2 bathroom doors labeled boy and girl. The next side was a balcony, followed by the kitchen, dining room, then 3 rooms leading back to the main entrance. All seemingly have sliding doors except for the kitchen and dining area fully open. Noticing 2 more piles of items by the doors, and as if his notice was the trigger. A boy leaned up from the couch to meet Isilrik's gaze before rising to his feet. With a golden blonde hair hung down to his eyes that was soft blue like a beach shore, warm beige skin, and a sense of calming came from his demeanor to Isilrik. With a simple bow of the head from the boy, a smaller gesture to himself, and a voice calm yet quick with confidence. Zachariah Zero Zahn. Since we're going to be friends, feel free to call me Z or Zero. Zechariah lifts up his forearm out in front of him at a diagonal angle across his chest. With the unfamiliar gesture, Izeric just copied while curiosity filled him. Izeric. Just Izeric. Why so certain we will be friends if we just met? Before replying to him, Zachariah bumped his forearm against Izeric's, which made him come to the realization of the greeting gesture. Oh, it's the deluxe package after all. Also, keep your stuff there. Let's wait until everybody else gets here before properly introducing and picking rooms. Also, my sister is in one of those rooms napping while waiting. Even while speaking and gesturing to the general direction of the rooms while already returning to the couch, followed by Izuric. Deluxe package? These aren't normal arrangements. Spoken with confusion as he sat down on a chair facing towards the balcony, while Zachariah laid back on the couch in the same direction. Ah, well, no, the standard is quite a bit different. Instead of each room holding 2 people, it's 4. A lot more rooms lined up in a row. Deluxe is smaller and more prioritized. 6 people resembling the squads that are up to 6 people. Our parents had a description of our behaviors sent in to find possible compatible matches. Although we can request a change, it's a good chance this will be our group until we graduate, and maybe after. At least, that's what my father taught me. Izuric took a moment to process what he said before giving a confirmational grunt and head nod. I didn't know that. Thanks. Zachariah gave the same confirmational grunt before closing his eyes with his hands behind his head and his feet on the armrest. Izuric glanced around the chair before finding a kickstand to prop up his feet. Leaning back in the chair, then proceeded to fiddle with his watch and phone while waiting. Putting on his headphones just to cancel out the noise. Sending a message to Mother Mary about how everything is going so far. Messing around with the settings on his devices to get it the way he wants. Afterwards, he began to look through the apps. Finding an app for the campus. After clicking on it, Izeric immediately was granted access. Before he could do anything else, he felt Ciela warning him of another roommate arriving. When glancing over at the door, Izeric realized from the corner of his eye that all the other belongings were already there. After the initial surprise quickly vanished, he couldn't help but to praise the effectiveness of the headphones. Taking a closer look, one of the piles had a lot of barrels from small to large. Removing his headphones when he sees Zachariah and a girl approaching. Zachariah only made it halfway before the door opened up again with another roommate he went to greet. Izuric gave a short wave at the girl with a slight prolonged head bow, with long, poofy, curly, dark brown hair with eyes to match. Her face had a slight round complementing features under warm, golden honey skin. Hello there, my name is Galena. Nice to meet you. Spoken with a soft, sweet voice and a kind smile towards him before her focus shift when seeing the remote and the TV off. After grabbing it, she took her spot in the semicircle that faced the balcony. I'm Izuric. That's all. It's nice to meet you as well, Galena. After replying warmly, both of their gazes shifted towards Zachariah and the newcomer, whose strides were as carefree as the look on his face. Natural warm skin and short, straight black hair that nearly covered his distant, deep brown eyes. Good afternoon, I'm Dexter, and I heard you're Izuric and Galena. A pleasure. Spoken with a slight smile that showed his kindness, Izuric felt Dexter's tone carried more of the sincerity he meant. After returning the greeting, they both joined the semicircle, sitting down on the furniture. Galena turns on the TV, settling on a random game show. After an hour past the front door flung to the side and the sound of a barrel being dragged filled the room, along with clackings of cups that was quickly drowned out with a loud declaration. Cheers! Cheers! Rudy is here! Now let's drink. With eyes as blue ice that pierced through his golden lock that fought to conceal them, along with ears long and pointy, as flushed was centre stage across his face on his beige skin. Approaching the centre of the living room, Rudy immediately began pulling the hanging mugs from the barrel and handing them out. Don't worry, it's non-alcoholic, but it still makes you feel good. Wait, I miscounted. We're missing one. With a bit of a confused look, Rudy glanced around back towards the room's doors to recount everybody. Zachariah spoke up with a commanding tone while looking at the second room door. "Everybody's here. Stop napping." After pausing for a moment, opening his mouth to speak again before the door opened up, as a girl rubbing her eyes stepped forward, wrapped in a blanket that covered everything below the neck. With similar features to her brother, just with longer hair that fell just below her shoulders. The girl yawned as she approached the back of the couch, leaning over it to do a front flip and clumsily land on cushions. After squirming to get comfortable, she took a more proper posture and cleared her throat. Pause for a moment as Rudy gave her an empty cup before she resumed. "Hello, hello. My name is Zaria Zuezan. If I like you, I'll let you call me Zizi or Zoo. I look forward to working with you, and I won't hold you back." Her look was enough certain to overshadow the slightly higher tone and younger age brought forth. Before anyone else could greet her, Zechariah spoke up once again, putting his hand on Zaria's cup as if prepared to take it away, with a slight concerning look towards Rudy. "You have non-alcoholic ale?" Ziara looked a bit grumpy at her brother's action. Meanwhile, Rudy was unfazed, already continuing around to the others. Dexter happily accepts the pour. Galena hesitated at first, so Rudy didn't press and passed, going to Ezorik, who shrugged and accepted it all the while Rudy was replying. "It's a part of my ability. No alcohol, so it tastes better, but the effects are not as long. I made a promise not to do real alcohol until graduation, and only serve the non-alcoholic version on the first day, weekends, and special moments." While explaining, he already returned to Zachariah, offering to the pour. After a moment, he accepted it and allowed his sister to partake. Dexter had drunk a third of his and held his cup open for more when Rudy returned. "Not bad, Rudy. It's very fruity." After getting his cup filled once again, this time, Dexter took slower sips to savor the taste, as Rudy made his way back towards Galena, who this time happily accepted and began to sip away slowly. Once he returned to Iziorik, who had already finished his cup, Rudy couldn't help but to laugh when filling it up again while speaking. "Ha! Oh, looks like me and you going to be drinking a lot together." Iziorik chuckled and started sipping his drink like the others while replying. "Ha, perhaps we will. It's very relaxing." Rudy poured himself a cup when noticing the brother and sister caught still mostly full. Rudy sat down to complete the semicircle. Then Zachariah spoke up once again, taking a few sips while speaking, glancing around at everyone. "All right, since we're all here, we can do a bit more proper greeting in full to get it over with. I'll go first. Once again, my name is Zachariah Zirozan. My sister is Zaria Zuezan." Given the situation, I thought it's only proper to say the full name, even though it's not to my liking to say it. Feel free to call me Z or Zero. If given permission, call her ZZ or Zoo. It's just me and my sister, and we're recent orphans. Was homeschooled. We lived in town. Lost our parents a year ago inside a dungeon. Because of their preparations, we managed to survive for the year until the school year started. Because of their contributions and connections, we're likely enough to stay together. She's also a bit of a prodigy, which also helped in the decision. So don't worry about her holding us back. Oh, and I like working out, if not sleeping or eating. His voice held exhaustion, as if tired of speaking, embracing the comfort of the couch as he leans back into it to sip more, enjoying the immediate effects that soothes him. "I like TV." Zaria quietly added on with her feet up on the couch, cozying up on the other side while enjoying her drink. After her words, Zachariah glanced over to his left towards Dexter, though sat in one of the two chairs to the left of the couch. "Okay, my turn. Dexter Michaels, only child, not an orphan. Father died when I was young, fighting the Horde. Mother is sick. Learned to cook to help out. I enjoy it. The cooking and helping out, and I lived out in the village." Taking another larger gulp down, he couldn't hide the look of worry on his face when speaking of his mother. He glanced over to his left at Rudy. "Another short story. I'm Rudy Tarfy. Mother died shortly after birth. I have an older sister. Father is a barkeeper in the city. He has the ability called drunkard, and that was passed down to me. He taught me enough to control the alcohol limit for safety. I like drinking, making friends, doing anything fun and drinking more. That's it, really. Taking a few large gulps down happily so, glancing across the room to the other side of the semicircle, holding up his glass, gesturing for Galina's turn. Before she spoke, she took a long sip. Mother is a mechanic, works on cars and junk in the city. Her ability was passed down to me. Good for building and fixing stuff, and it's also what I like to do. My father works as a guard for a mafia, or a gang, depending on who you ask. I got a few siblings doing whatever in the city. I'm the youngest. Mother says I'm a prodigy. Oh, and I like music and dancing as well. Rubbing her lips with her sleeves to wipe away the extra ale that was drooling down the corners before she glanced over towards Izurik. By this time he had already finished his second cup and was just holding it. Izurik felt the effects clearly. Although it didn't fully empty his mind, everything felt more relaxed and lessened how much he thinks. Tapping his empty cup, taking a moment before out until feeling Celia comforting nuzzles against his head. Ah, yes. Sorry. So I'm an orphan. I never knew my parents, I was just a newborn. From what I'm told, my mother and father were deathly sick and knew their time was coming. Izurik lied. He knew his parents died saving him, but since he was told to keep his own name hidden, he didn't feel like he should tell the full truth just yet. Although when it came to his parents' death, he knew very little. According to Sister Mary, it was an attack and not sickness. She didn't tell him much more than that. It was on their dying breath they handed me over to a religious village woman, thinking it would be the best option. I grew up on a farm. We didn't use much technology. I enjoy the moon, TV, gardening, music, sleeping, meditating, and lastly, but mostly, playing with Ciela. Before he could say more, Ciela let out a few soft caws after hearing our name. Izurik held his hand near the level of his head for Ciela to slowly make her way out from his hair to plop down on his hand, spreading her wings as if to showcase herself, little bouncing around in a circle before facing towards his hair once more and hopping back inside. She's really shy but wanted to join in. She is also really smart. She can understand you perfectly fine. I've had her since I was 4. Everyone was quite surprised at the sight of the crow. Zarya stared at the retreating bird with intense focus, pure excitement gleaming in her eyes, sitting up taller and her seat with a serious face speaking with urgency. I'm rooming with Izurik, she declared, which brought up the conversation of rooms. Zachariah immediately protested, thinking the 2 girls should share a room. Zarya immediately disagreed. Dexter didn't really care. From sharing a room with his mother several times, he didn't see any problem. Galena understood Dexter's point from sharing rooms with her siblings, but also agreed with Zachariah. Rudy chimed in, suggesting joining with Izurik for drinking buddies and gardening. Although he agreed, Izurik brought to Rudy's attention how their personalities may clash, since he enjoys a more quiet setting, offering another suggestion that Galena likes music and dancing with possible similar energies. As the conversation continued, Zachariah was slowly more defeated, knowing how her sister gets when really focused on things for once. Izurik turns his attention to Zarya. Is it mainly because you want to play with Celia? This led to an immediate multiple head nod from Zarya. Celia doesn't want to be separated from me. I say we just take it to a vote. Me, Celia and Dexter don't care. Galena is on all sides, so that doesn't count too. It's up to Rudy, Zarya and Zachariah, which means Rudy got the real last vote. While spoken, everyone nodded their head in agreement, with Zachariah being a more reluctant one. Finishing his long sip, Rudy, cheerful personality, turned slightly more serious for a moment as he wiped away the drool of ale, thinking as he one by one looks at everybody before coming into a decision. All are good points, but like Zachariah said, it's a good chance we're stuck with each other until graduation, so it's probably better to match up personalities and not just gender. Let's try not to take everything so serious. Rudy shrugged, while Zacharias' resolve crumbled, letting out a defeated sigh and rubbing his face, finishing his cup before setting it down on the armrest. Well, speaking. Yeah, I suppose that's right. It was fair and reasonable. Now just for the rooms. Dexter raised his hand slightly to bring attention to himself, spoken softly yet clearly. I'll take the first room next to the kitchen since I like cooking, which means you will be with me. Zachariah nodded with confirmation, putting his cup on the coffee table before heading over to his pile of stuff. Dexter soon followed after finishing his cup and also placing it on the coffee table. Galena stood up next, finishing hers and placing it right next to his. I will take the third room. It will be nice being close to the bathroom, which means Rudy will be with me. Rudy finishes his drink and adds it to the growing pile, joining Galena and starting unpacking. Izurik got up next. Before adding his cup to the pile, he takes a bit more ale, holding it up to its head and letting Celia take her fill before he finishes, then glancing over at Zarya. I guess we're number 2. Spoken cheerfully, while making his way over to his things, leaving Zarya the last to join. It took quite a bit of time, but eventually everybody got settled in, one by one making their way back out to the living room to sit in their previous spots. Then there was a sound of a doorbell that left all of them confused and looking at the front door.